welcome to this week's episode of Women Serve Too. Today we have Charmin N. Jacobs with us, and she is such an impressive woman. She is a distinguished business coach, which we will dive into her new business venture, whose comprehensive expertise is forged through a notable 22-year venture as a U.S. Navy lieutenant commander, and has enriched by an extensive educational background, including a BS from Troy State, a Master's of Education from Old Dominican University, and a master's in human resources from Webster University. So she's very well educated with a recent degree in executive coaching and consulting from Concordia. Did I say that right? Concordia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Concordia.
University's Townsend Institute. Sherman is adept in both the federal government and consulting realms within the DEI industry. All right, so we're definitely going to talk about that. Her multifaceted career and deep understanding of diversity and inclusion have positioned her as a leader in helping transitioning women veterans launch successful online businesses. Leveraging her vast knowledge, skills, and resources, Sherman is committed to empowering her fellow sisters in arms with the tools and strategies needed for entrepreneurship, guiding them through the intricacies of building profitable ventures. Her personal narrative weaves resilience and generosity, channeling her profound insights to nurture growth and excellence in others. So, lady, thank you so much for being here today.
It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you.
I know we were talking earlier. I was saying how you had such an impressive background and, a military career of 22 years, which is amazing. So tell us a little bit about, your military service, your journey, and how that essentially helped you, decide that you want to be your own businesswoman.
All right. So, wow. So it was during the Gulf War. My cousin came home. He was with the 82nd Airborne. He was fit and fine in his uniform. And I looked up to him and he said, cuz they give you 3 square meals, they give you a roof over your head, they feed you, and they pay you, and you can get an education, your degree. So if whatever you came into service with is like financial debt, is if you don't have any, then your money is yours. And it really made sense to me. It really resonated because when I started college, which was on a basketball scholarship, my first year I had a 1.93 as my GPA, believe it or not. And so I went in undesignated because I didn't know at the time what I really wanted to be when I grew up. So I was undesignated, went with VP6 out of Barbers Point, Hawaii, and I was working in the first lieutenant division. And for those that come in the military or the Navy undesignated, you go and you're the glorified janitorial service person for that squadron. And it's through that squadron retiring that I was able to get Corps School. Well, I didn't really want Corps School because I did not want to touch the genitals of anybody. And the thought of putting a catheter in a male counterpart was just not what I fathomed as what the career field that I wanted to go in, plus the sight of blood and needles. But as I say, our divine, our higher being, I call him God. He had other plans for me. And so I went into that field and I loved it. So I became a hospital corpsman, and then after serving for 8 years as a quad zero, so I wasn't specialized. Then I was my last tour was the career counselor, and so I enjoyed that role because I was able to impact every new hospital corpsman that came to the command. They all had a conversation with me. They get to meet me, right? And then I got commissioned. I put in a package to get commissioned because I thought, I had some limiting beliefs, and I was like, man, if I stay enlisted, I got to take this test. But if I get officer, so I got to take multiple tests over here. I don't have to take multiple tests over here. I take one test, which is to graduate with my undergraduate, which is what I wanted to do anyway. And then from Lieutenant Ensign to Lieutenant JG, you just 2 years, you don't have to kill it as long as you don't kill anybody, right? You do well. Then you get promoted from Lieutenant JG to Lieutenant Junior grade to Lieutenant is the same thing. From lieutenant to lieutenant commander, you had to go back to get your master's degree in order to be competitive against your peers. So amongst all of that, the military has blessed me immensely to have be able to obtain my first my undergraduate from Webster in HR. I mean, from Troy State in HR, and then my master's in educational leadership, which was duty under instruction, which I was a civilian for 18 months, which was wonderful at Old Dominion University. And all of that was during the time of right after 9/11. And then I went on to be the admin officer in Okinawa in a hospital at Camp Lester, and then came back to the East Coast and worked at the Education Training Command for Hospital Corps. We moved enlisted at hospital medical training down to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And then I got a call saying, hey, you're in an unfunded billet. We need to move you in 90 days. And I'm like, I can't be. You just did turn the billet on. I got new students. And every student is going to spend 6 months with me at the detachment until they graduate and then go off to their next duty station. But again, like God had other plans for me. So I went and was the deputy diversity officer for Bureau of Medicine and Surgery, which is where I got my first indoctrination really in what was a diversity officer. Like, what do you do, right? And so that is the stint of the 22 years and actually 5 months, 7 days that I served. And, to be very transparent, after serving 22 years, I did not want to leave, but in order to be competitive against your peers, you have to be given projects and the opportunity to be competitive. And my motto is that every time I went into a new duty station, I said, hey, I am here to make something more effective, more efficient, and have fun while I'm doing it. I'm not status quo. I'm not going to do what your previous leader did because that was their time and this is my time. And we all lead differently and we all have different expectations on how we want things done. And so, because they were like, oh, some people will be like, oh, why are you changing things? Well, that's because that's not how as the song goes, that's not how I roll, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just not me. It's not, I'm not putting my, I say when I roll around, like when I come to a new duty station, I'm going to roll around, right? Because I'm going to roll around on those same tires that Michelin made. However, I'm going to retread it. And the retread is going to have that lieutenant commander imprint on it, right? So I'm not going to reinvent anything. I'm just going to retread it and make it better and more
Yeah.
efficient. It's a different set of eyes. I'm not walking around with blinders on. Leaders are supposed to see further and wider. And that's what I'm here for. That's what they gave me the auspice of responsibility. So after serving, then I did, I did 6 months as a contractor. And that was just not the experience that I wanted as a contracting consultant under my business, which my business name is Teachable Learnable Solutions. And it's a little story about that is like I always have like, hey, I got a story, here it go. It's a teachable, learnable moment. And so when I thought of, well, what am I going to call my business, me and my mentor, I was like, oh, Teachable Learnable Solutions, because there's always something that you can glean from in every interaction that you have with people. It may be what not to do, or it may be what to do. So there's always a teachable, learnable moment, hence Teachable Learnable Solutions. Did 6 years in the federal government. After that, after I got my, that 30% disability, you can get in uncontested. I think that might not be the right terminology, but you can like just give your resume, and then you could just, if you meet the qualifications, then you can, have an interview and with whomever you're going to be working with, if the job is coded that way, and then you can just start. So it's like a non-contestant, something like that. I don't know. That might not be the right word. Maybe it'll come to me while we're talking. But I did 6 years in agriculture marketing service as an EEO specialist, but I did the affirmative employment program management, which is more of the proactive work than the reactive work. Reactive is, hey, someone comes to you and say, I believe and I feel like someone has violated one of my protected classes. And then we have a conversation and we talk about what the administrative timeline is, but that does not bring me joy in helping people navigate that space. What brings me joy is increasing people's awareness in that space that prevents them to getting to that space. Follow
Mm.
me? So
Yep.
educating them, telling them about their rights, encouraging them. There are some people that just, they're conveniently complacent at a low level in the federal government. And it's like, look, in order to increase, you want to increase your finance? And they always say, yes. And I'm like, okay. In order to increase your finance, you have to increase your learning, your knowledge, actually. And then in order to increase your knowledge, you got to increase your learning. So what you came in the federal government with, or any organization for that matter, is not going to get you to the next promotion. What are you doing as an individual in order to get there? And so after being questioned about my badassery, I resigned and I went back to figuring out, well, what do you want to do? What really brought you joy? Like, if you knew I always say this, if you knew, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Money was not an object. There was a certain population of humans that you wanted to serve with the gift that God gave you. What would you do? Coach, right? Okay, now what population is it? Women that are probably having the same challenges that I had when I transitioned out of the military. Well, you did 22 years, 5 months, 7 days. And when you went into the federal government, you had no leave. But for 22 years, 5 months, 7 days, my pay stayed the same. Whether I was sick, whether I was on vacation, it stayed the same. So I needed it to stay the same in the federal government. But if you come into the federal government or in any organization that doesn't have unlimited PTO, you have to earn all of that over again. But there's some things that we have to go through during our transition that doesn't stop the day that we our end of our EEOs, our enlisted service, our end date of our enlisted service. And that is that care that we need, the care. And so that those are appointments at the VA, that's your CMP, you have to go consistently. You may need to, there are some things you may need to go to your counseling, to help you with your transition because it's a cultural mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I said a lot.
Yeah, no, but you're actually saying very similar things as what others are saying as far as transitioning out of the military and almost finding your identity. Because I don't know about, when did you join right after high school, or did you do a little bit of schooling?
Yeah, I did a year and a half of college, so I was like 19.
Okay, so you're
So
still
I was
very
still young, still young. I grew the Navy is my foundation. That's
young.
where I grew up. That's where I learned I learned work ethics at home. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just it's in me. Like
Yeah.
it's in my DNA. Like, when you go to boot camp or officer indoctrination school, and particularly boot camp though, they strip you of all that stuff that you come in with, and then they build you back up. And so
Mm-hmm.
those ethos that we learn, they're in us. And so you're so right. It's like, what am I didn't have to think about what I was gonna wear when I was in the military to go to work. I didn't think about what I had to do because I had a standard operating procedure. I had somebody I was shadowing. I didn't have to worry about, everything was told. We were told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and so on and so forth. So now with all that structure, now when you transition out, whether you retire or what have you, still have that structure that you came in, that they developed, they indoctrinated you in and whatnot. Then now you're out and you're like, what am I
Who
gonna
am I?
wear? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. Because they also told you what rate. See, I didn't want to be a hospital corpsman. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a PN or a DK. I wanted to work with folks with money because I didn't want nobody messing up my money. So I wanted to work with folks' money. But again, God had other plans for me because he was like, nah, we're gonna do this. And so you you're and so you just have to find like your identity. So you just have to sometimes we may have made a reactive decision to transition out, or it may be a planned decision. And putting on my career counselor hat, I would tell you that transition assistance program is not for when necessarily for when you get out. You need to go to transition assistance, that program, maybe at this 3 years, your last your last tour. And I don't know, mine was every 3 years I had a new duty station,
Hmm.
at max every 4. I know the Army, sometimes you can stay at a location your whole career at one duty station, some folks.
I know.
But
That's so crazy.
but whenever you're when so and that is what the career counselor does, is look at your contract and have conversations with you about, okay, I see that you're coming up, you're 24 months or 36 months from your EOS, right, your end of service date. What are your plans? Do you want to go to transition assistance? I think we've gotten away from that, but I know that when I served in that position, that was my job, is to ensure that my brothers and sisters were ready for their transition, as far as, going and seeing who, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to prepare. This is, and one of the things that amazes me is that, why don't we have sponsors when we leave the military? I don't know if
Mm.
you, for me, I had a sponsor at every duty station that made sure that when I got to that command, that I was assimilated into that command, right? Remember the first 24-hour video that they kind of show in the sponsorship training, in order to make sure that we didn't make those mistakes. If you're a sailor trying to, who knows how to salute or enter on a ship if you've never been to one? You might just walk on and they were like, hold on, sailor, you got to salute.
Uh,
In fact, you're going up the wrong one. This is for the officers. That's for the enlisted, whatever the case may be.
yeah,
And so, why don't we have sponsors to help our military members transition?
that's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's just amazing.
So I know your business. So you decided to, create a coaching program and you wanted to help transitioning. And I correct me if I'm wrong, just more of you niched it down to the female side, correct?
Yes. Yes, I did. Yep. So in
And
2020, I
so,
did a, mhm.
oh, go ahead.
So, it's, you know, when you're in this space of branding yourself, marketing yourself, you have to have a brand voice, right? And it took a while, because I was like, oh, I just coach anybody that that will pay me. But when you have that type of mindset from, I believe, then then it's all about money.
Mm,
And I'm like, well, I don't, that's not, it's not about the money. It's about the transformation that happens when I work with them. It's not about the transaction. And it's also about, well, who could I identify with my story, right? Well, that's transitioning women veterans, right? Now, if I want to narrow it down even more, it would be retiring, right?
mm,
But and 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 retiring women veterans, those that are, have an opportunity to view this, is that, like, there are, when you retire, and at least when I retired, I don't know about what they're offering today as far as retirement, but you get 50% of your base pay. So what I would say to someone is that you need to start living your last duty station, maybe even your last 2 duty stations. like you are retired. But then if you spent a significant time, any time in the military to get a DD 214, then who are you to say that you don't have something that will be rateable for a disability? So we have to think differently about the word disability, because we are, as service members, are entitled to that status if you have a condition. Now, unless you are self-diagnosing, and I wouldn't say that you should, because there are over 8,000 rateable conditions at different severities, right? When you add them up, then you should go let someone else tell you that you're not what your status is. Don't tell yourself. See, sometimes we talk ourselves out of it, and I'm speaking for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that I was like, oh no, that's for folks like that went to Vietnam, that went to, boots on ground, that lost limbs, that are disfigured, that's for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not for me. I'm able, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm telling myself. Until the moment you have that something hits that triggers something inside of you that may not be positive. So I don't know if you remember the story of Lieutenant Cho. Her name is Florence Cho. Lieutenant Cho is a medical service corps officer and was on a humanitarian assist deployment, and they were mentoring other country that were fighting the war. Right? We were mentoring them, but there were some traitors that got inside the gate. And as her and a couple of other um, uh, soldiers or active duty members, because we were all joint at that time, were running inside the gate, took it upon themselves to start shooting. And so Lieutenant Cho is not here with us anymore. So how I got to know Lieutenant Cho is we were family readiness officers. So Marines call them, family readiness officers. So we're the ones that liaison with the families of what's going on when your family member is deployed. And we became really close to the point where I gave her my maternity uniforms. So the little Miss Ma'am now that is here without her mom, that's touching. Because before, Brittany, those 10 additional days that we get off, in particular Memorial Day, was just another holiday for me. Because I didn't have a perspective of what it really meant. Because there was no one that I served with lost their life to their service. Now, I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to have positive self-talk. But that doesn't mean that I don't have my valley days. And so we need to, learn how to identify those not so good feeling and emotions that related to our service. So I would say to my fellow sisters, let's change that mindset. So then you can get what you're entitled to, which could then be 2 passive incomes for those that retire. Ooh.
Celebrate.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of that, you are just so right. Memorial Day, when I was, in high school and stuff, was, just another holiday. But when my first duty station, I also had a friend be part of an attack, and it was hard. And I have a hard time still kind of talking about it. And it's been 11 years. And so, kind of what you were talking about with like the whole disability, and I would have nightmares. Like, I was intel, so the person who attacked my friend was a terrorist. So as an intel analyst, I was taking out these terrorists, and then it hit home with a friend. So I would have these nightmares. But when I was trying to seek disability, or just even try to see what I could, I was like, well, the same kind of mindset that you had. Like, well, like I'm still able. Like, this is for people who, who need it more than me. And I had a conversation with my grandfather. He served in Vietnam, and he was like, Brittany, stop. He was like, you deserve it more than it, like, you deserve it just like anyone else. You're not taking away from another veteran. And I think that is a mindset that we need to get into. We are not taking away like money from someone else. We're just getting what Uncle Sam kind of owes us.
Yeah,
So,
we're getting what is entitled to us. It was, and if you can imagine, like, and this is like another thing that bothers me. People that are in the know don't share the information. Like
mhm,
they hold it so close to their chest, like it's their income. Like, like, are you kidding me? It's not yours. Why aren't we giving it freely?
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's crazy, like doing a partial Diddy move. Like when you drive from duty station to duty station in your car, like you're in, there is a directive that says that if you do a partial Diddy move, you can do a partial Diddy move. Now it does take you going and weighing your car empty, and then going and weighing your car and doing the proper paperwork and making sure you track things. But that could be that's additional income in your pocket that you can use to help your family members live a better life. And I believe that that's what we're here for. Is like, people say, "Oh, I don't want to make that much money," or "I don't want to make a money. I don't want to be they're not dreaming out loud about, oh, wanting to be filthy rich, right? But in my mind, you know, when the more money is the more impact, the more people that you can serve, the more people that you can hire, the more veterans you can hire. So it's not
Mhm,
about, so it's to me, if you make a lot of money and you're not giving back or serving, then that's the problem. But when you're
mhm,
creating jobs for veterans, when you're making an impact and serving, right? Maybe you may be like me. I'm a sole entrepreneur. So the more money I make, the more people that I can bring on to help me make a more impact.
mhm.
I just onboarded my first virtual assistant. Like, oh my gosh, right?
That's
So
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, like the first time, like I had to get my shit together because he's asking questions, like, and that goes back to like the standard operating procedures. Like, wow,
Mhm,
right? Having those in place so that people can follow them and meet the expectations that are of the requirement of the responsibility. So, yeah.
I love that. Well, congrats on getting that virtual assistant. Like, that's amazing. It means you're getting up there, girl. So let's talk
Mhm.
about your coaching program. So let's dive into what that is, because like you said, a lot of people hold those resources to themselves, and we don't know what opportunities are out there for us, what we can use, what we can buy into. So let's talk a little bit about your transition program. So you have a program called Success After Discharge. What are the key objectives in your coaching program?
So the key objective is to empower those transitioning women to build a profitable online business that provides freedom for them and fulfillment. Those are two key words: freedom and fulfillment, right? And it's personalized. They get me one on one, right? Coaching, taking them through a like a framework of, okay, so some people are like, I don't know what I don't want, again, right? Back to, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? So, if money was not an object you knew you couldn't fill, what population of the human race that you would want to help with the skills that you have? And you have skills, right? And you have skills. What would you want to do? All right. So that's finding out who you want to serve. Okay. How do you want to serve them? What products and services that we can develop that for you to serve them? Okay. Then we talk about, and then we go through and talk about, okay, what is the business plan? Now, a lot of people think of a business plan as, oh, I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to tell you, I thought that for a while, but a business plan is your navigation plan, is your like you need to know where you're starting and where you're going. What is, what is your projected revenue that you want to have? And based on that, you can then price out your products and how many people you want to serve, so on and so forth. So we go through that. I know there's like 12 steps of that. And we go through it, and I'm, teaching about why it's important to have your why, know your why it's important to have your definite of purpose. I'm not sure if you read any of Napoleon Hill's work, but that's your guiding, that's your North Star. When you're lost, what are you looking for? You're looking for a North Star. And so when you have a purpose behind what you do, at the sign of a misstep, and I call a failure a misstep, right? Because failure has so many negative emotions with it, is that North Star is going to keep you guided. And there's an activity that I have the participants go through, which is 7 levels deep, which is a Simon Sinek, comes from Simon Sinek. And it's like, okay, well, why do you want to do an online business? Well, because I want to make more money. Well, why do you want to make more money? Well, I want to make more money because it helped my family. Well, why do you want to help your family? Well, I grew up and my family didn't have a lot of money. Well, why did, and it just keeps going. And you keep answering those questions, and then it gets down to the really core of it. So really it's about being transformational and not transactional. Because remember, back up top, it was about making more money. But then it's really, really deep and ingrained in how maybe you were raised. Your parents didn't have a lot of money. Maybe you want to give back. To your parents, you want to have a better life. You want, for your parents, you want to have a better life for your kids, your family. You want to impact those too, as well. So when you are having challenges, and I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna have some challenges because it ain't easy, right? Then you will remember your North Star, which is your why and your purpose.
I love that you mentioned Simon Sinek because I'm like obsessed with him, and he is he's such a huge military advocate. Like huge military advocate. When I was stationed at Creech, north of Las Vegas, he actually did a free seminar, and he was like, "For military, I always do free because I believe in giving back to those who give."
Yep.
And kind of going back to your statement earlier, like it's the more money you make, the more you should give back and, feel your purpose and get that fulfillment and help others. I love that. So what specific challenges do transitioning women veterans often face when they are trying to start a business?
Well, lack of knowledge, lack of money, lack of mentorship, lack of support. Like it hadn't changed. Like it's no different. You look at some of the statistics about women. Like women are creating businesses all the time. Like we're beating men, but we're not beating them in the revenue. But the same challenges, whether you're a veteran or not, happen across the board with women and business owners. Like lack of, I put out a while ago, do you need a lot of money in order to start a business? And I would say that you don't need a lot of money. You do need money, some money to make businesses, but there are grants out there for all different types of businesses.
Can you speak on the grant part? Because I feel like a lot of people don't know what is out there.
So people that make a lot of money that want to give back and be transformational instead of transactional. Like the Bill Gateses, right? Like the Gates family, for instance, if I'm not mistaken. They have foundations. And so those foundations have causes that they want to support, and they, based on what your business is, if it aligns with what they want to support, they give money. And grants is money that you get and you don't have to pay it back. You just have to show that you used it for the purpose that is aligned in the document of the foundation. For instance, what's new but a little controversy is like TikTok. For instance, you go through, TikTok gives a grant. It's $500. It's for the $500 is for marketing your business on TikTok. but you have to go through the classes in order to learn first how to do it. And then once you go through the class, then they give you $500. Verizon has the same thing, right? Verizon has similar ones that they partner with. I'm making a note because that's a resource that I'm going to put out on my website. Like, I mean, it was something I was going to do anyway. It is like the different grants. There are the League of Nations. There's an organization that I met at a veteran event over the weekend, and they have a grant for $10,000 grant for the food. Any veteran or veteran spouse that is starting a business in the food industry. I'm looking for the business card so I can give you the exact name of the organization. So I was like, what? He was like, yeah, that's what we do. It's called the Urban League. Like, there's all these organizations out here, and the Urban League, they give grants, $10,000 grant.
Damn, that's a lot of money.
I mean, if you exactly, but again, there's where that help comes, that help that I want to offer, in is like, okay, well, and I say online businesses. And the reason why I narrowed it down to online businesses, because I don't know about you, but when I got deployed on board the USS Nassau, which was the first time in my whole 22 years that I ever been away from my kids, that was tough. That was tough to miss 5 months of my kids, like their life. So I only did 5 months. What about our sisters and brothers that have done longer than that? So building and launching an online business will give you that freedom where you could take your laptop and work from anywhere in the world as long as they have good internet connectivity. You could be on Richard Branson's Virgin Voyage and working from your laptop because they give free internet, unlike Carnival. But hey.
And that honestly does sound amazing, right? Like, you could travel, work. Yeah, like, and now everyone has Wi-Fi, or at least the option to buy it. I mean, airplanes, you could even do it on a flight.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love my long flights because I always get it, and I don't call it work. I call it creating.
I do that
people
too.
Like, oh, you're on vacation and you're working. I was like, I'm creating. I'm creating something over here to serve the population that I want to serve. And once I'm done, I am going to get my adult libations. But I'm in my bathing suit while I'm creating. See, if I was working, I would have had to been in work gear.
Yeah.
But I'm chilling.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I like to think of it as creating too, especially now with everything's moving to like social media as far as marketing, and like the reels and the TikToks. Like, it is about creating. You have to get creative. Sometimes, sure, it does feel like work, but you're getting your creativity juices flowing.
And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't do social media. Like, how do you get your message out about what it is you're trying to sell? I remember the days when the TV went off at midnight, and then they started bringing MTV. And I might be dating myself, but I don't care. But then they started having like infomercials with people selling stuff late at night. And the reason why is because that was like cheap to advertise. Look at what big businesses are doing and model them. Don't reinvent the wheel. Model them. Fine. Like, that's why I had to narrow it down. Chick-fil-A marketing the people that want beef. They only marketing the people that want Chick-fil-A. And then they ain't open on Sunday. And then they ain't open on Sundays. So they market to the Christian population because of their values. Right? They was like, nope. that's the Sabbath, and you go and you rest and you go to, and enjoy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I mean, I have been in a state of learning for the past 5 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been under the coaching of Russell Brunson. His mentor is Dan Kennedy, and he's the one that got that infomercial for $5. That's that space for limited, like during the time when the national anthem used to come on and the screen went right. So he's been learning from him, and so I've been learning from him and others of the likes for the past 5 years. It is time to implement. So sometimes we have analysis paralysis because we have that failure of the misstep. Like we have the fear of having a misstep or failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say to anyone that is, you know, it gives you data in order to pivot. If you never took the step to even fail, you would know that, okay, I'm not going to do it that way. You have to. Les Brown says that the richest place in the world is the graveyard. And it is because so many people leave their physical body not able to fulfill their dreams. And
That's
we should
powerful.
dream because our dreams is our imagination, and it gives us hope and encouragement. If you don't like dream out loud, it's is attached to the law of attraction. I'm dreaming all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually writing it down. That's why a gratification log or manifestation log is also something that I practice.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too is stop waiting for the perfect moment
When is that
because
happening? What's the perfect
exact
moment? So,
exactly. So
somebody be like,
stop.
well, I'm going to do, yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, I'm going to stop when my child graduates. I'm going to start when my child graduates from school. My child is in college now. I'm gonna do it when my child's out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now while my child is in college, my child now needs a car, so now I'm going to wait until I'm done paying for this car. Like
Mm-hmm.
you keep putting your dreams and goals on hold, then you're not like you need to elevate your vibration of happiness. You just have to start. You don't
Yep.
have to, it you don't have to. It's just start. A lot of people think that it takes a lot of money to start a business. It doesn't. One of the business coaches that I've had an opportunity to work with under Russell Brunson is Allison Prince. Allison Prince is she's launching something, a 3-day challenge. It started today. And she's showing, people how to um, take a printer and make money with a printer. It's called Print Sprint. Turn your printer
Okay.
into a side hustle. Turn your
Yeah.
printer into a side hustle. And Allison is a
Mm.
teacher who was on like not making a lot of money, and she started cutting blocks of wood into and cutting blocks of woods and then putting resin on them and putting pictures on them and different, like your kids, right? Your kids go through stages, and I don't know about you, but I bought all the pictures, right? So
Oh yeah.
you put a picture on this
All of
side of the block of wood, you put a picture on this side of the block of wood, and you put resining on it, right? That is a
them.
mantle trinket that grandparents, aunties, whoever would love, and then they can just turn it, and it's the different stages of the kids. Block of wood.
I know. I was
Her
watching
neighbors
Shark
thought she
Tank.
was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, there's some like stop thinking like your idea is crazy or whatever. I was watching Shark Tank one time and it was a business of sending a potato to random people. And Kevin O'Leary, it was like what a potato, like a food potato and you just mail it to random people as a joke. I was like, what? So don't think your idea is too crazy. Just
Mm-hmm.
do it. And sometimes you
Well,
may have to pivot depending on what your
yeah,
customer needs. But I mean, there's nothing, I have seen so many crazy business ideas, but they work.
right. And when you know, like when you get to know what your dream customer or your ideal customer is, right? So then you need to know what the demographics are. You need to know what the psychographics are. You need to know what their needs, their desires. What time do they wake up? What time do they go to bed? So it encompasses a lot, but it it just it's like your foundational work. Once you have your foundational, which is your brand, like that, you know that information, then when you start creating content, then you're speaking to the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions trigger our actions.
Mm-hmm.
When you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, right? When you sad, what are you doing? Right? So when you are speaking, and there's the psychology about emotions and marketing, and it's like when you're in church and then you hear a sermon, or you could be looking at church on YouTube, or when you hear any type of advertisement and it pierces you, right? It speaks to you. It speaks to you so much that you click, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it resonates with you. Like, man, they talking to me. Woo.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are, so those are some, that is an aspect of what the participants that, join the program get, is to get that learning. And it's like, look, I have to bring back a military mindset. Like, one, if you want to do this, we have to follow. Cause I'm gonna tell you, there's been like people give, you give you a framework, right? So they'll be like, oh, give my free download. But they already know you ain't gonna do it on your own,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why it's like, okay, well, and then the more you get closer to the person that's doing it, it's the more the cost is. And that is what you're going, like, and those are the concepts that is going to be taught in the program, right? It's like, okay, what is your lead magnet? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
That is true. I think a lot of people, and when I first started my fitness business, like I was just like, well, I don't know why people don't, just buy my programs. Like they know I work out, and I'm like, I have this fitness thing, but you have to like teach them almost. Like you have to give them a lead magnet and be like, this is a glimpse of what I can provide to you. And then there's like different levels of programs, and obviously like you said, the more closer you are to that someone, it is going to be more pricey, but you're paying for that expertise, you're paying for that accountability and that individuality of the program. And I think a lot of people have a hard time grasping that as a consumer, because they're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
why are you so expensive? And I'm like, I spend a lot of money to you know, for my craft. And I want to give that to you instead
Right.
of the years and the learning. I'm giving it to you for a fraction and a more digestible aspect. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something, as a business coach, is so important to teach people, especially transitioning, because when
Mm-hmm.
I got out, I was like, oh, I'm going to own a fitness business. And trust me, there was a lot of trial and error. And everything that you're saying is like things I wish I knew 5 years ago, because I probably would have been a lot farther along.
So I follow a guy by the name of Alex Harmozy, and Alice was in your industry. I can give you free content on social media, YouTube
Mm-hmm.
Shorts. I can take all of that content, then I can create a book. So the content is free over here. You can get a free download over here, an ebook. But then if you want the paper book, the physical book, then it's over here. Now the book says this, and then do you need help? And it's going to cost more. So it's kind of it's called a value ladder. It's what,
Mm-hmm.
or a yellow brick road. Stacy, I forget what Stacy's last name is, but Stacy has a relationship. Her and her husband has a relationship business. So it's and sometimes people turn their mess into a message. Like, how did you
Hmm.
overcome divorce? Like, what did and so there's all different ideas that people just sometimes don't think about of what they could do. Um, you know,
Yeah, I'm a huge person about, and this is the reason why I'm doing this podcast, is amplifying people's voices and stories, because some people don't think their story deserves to be heard. But,
right.
by openly talking, you may be inspiring someone. You may be developing a connection that down the road could lead you into a different path. And that is something that I'm a very strong component about, is, or a supporter about, is share your story, because your story can end up being your business plan, believe it or not.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, what are some success stories with people working with you, particularly with the transitioning women veterans?
Right. So, sometimes people need just encouragement, right? Self-confidence. And so people that have come into my space that I've had the opportunity to serve in this capacity all have said that they really enjoy working with me. I really have helped them because I'm a cheerleader. I'm the captain of your cheering team. Your success is my mission.
Mhm.
And when you know that, and you know that I'm available, because when you join the coaching program, I am available. Now I'm gonna tell you what my hours of operation is, but from 5 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, I'm up. That's 7 hours. 10 o'clock, I'm in bed. Those are
Mhm.
my 2024 practices, because we need to, our brain is rejuvenating while we sleep. And I had to put back in some military practices, not the ones where we're working 16 hours, but the one where we are being very intentional about my effort.
Mhm.
However, I've had some clients that have said that I have been dead inside and you have sparked it. And that was very touching, and I have helped, not in the realm of women veterans, but women, because women need to be encouraged. Go from being a director to being a vice president. And so those, you know, going from being not knowing what I want to be when I grow up to going off to college to joining the military undesignated to being enlisted to being an officer. I know that I have value to add, and with the framework that I have developed in this program, follow it to the T. Doesn't mean that you have to. It's not a sprint.
Mhm.
It's not a race. It's actually a marathon. And so when you were conditioning for, you got to condition for a marathon.
Mhm.
And so I just want to be that person in your ear that's cheering you on as you're starting that online business, building and starting that online business.
So
So,
I know it's transitioning, and I know some people have like a different definition of when transitioning is. When should people who are thinking about getting out of the military or retiring, when should they start potentially reaching out to you to start this coaching?
so I'm glad you asked. So I would say, all right, so if you know that you're on your last duty station and you're either putting in your retirement paperwork, you're going to put your retirement paperwork in, or your retirement paperwork is in, then ideally, like, is 3 years, because remember, it's online,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, you know, and that way you can take, again, it's not a sprint, but if you 90 days right? If you're on your, 90 days, ideally, I want to work with those that, will have the finances in order to build it and have the successes and have those missteps to be able to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And most people, when they're on, they're already working, then you have your full-time job fund your dream job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ideally. But I know everyone may not be in that space. So, but again, it takes money to run a business. And so there are um some programs, processes, and applications that make things automated in this automated space. And that's where, you can have the framework, but then you have to have certain things in order to make sure, to make automations. Like, for instance, I don't know, you have people that say, hey, DM launch. And then all of a sudden you get stuff. You just get this stuff coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just that's automation. They're not
Mm-hmm.
sitting there looking at their phone doing that. That's automation.
Mm-hmm.
And so automation makes it easier to be able to operate with limited um, manpower, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but ideally, I would like to work with on that last duty station. But if not, if they're transitioning or already transitioned and they still want to start, then while they're on terminal leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're on terminal leave, what are you doing? You're not working, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably trying to figure out how to navigate LinkedIn because transition assistants give you a premium LinkedIn account. You get a premium LinkedIn account while you're on, on active duty for a certain amount of time. And they're telling you to get your resume together, to put your little circle around you, that you are transitioning and that you're about to work, you're getting ready to work. And so I would say that, because you have the opportunity to plan, then let's plan this transition and
Mm-hmm.
let's plan it together. And that way you can feel comfortable about the missteps. A lot of people, what happens is they get strapped for money and they do anything. And when you do anything, then you're just not happy. And then you're, oh, I don't want to go to work today. And then it adds to all of the other dis-ease that you may have that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could do something that elevates your vibration of happiness and you're doing it and building it while you're still taking care of your family finances and you're building it. And then when you step out, everything is on autopilot. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, I would like to work with those transitioning women veterans that know when that the day that they let their chain of command know that they are either retiring or they're not going to re-enlist or re-up their contract, then they contact me. Have a ignite clarification session with me to kind of figure out what is your navigation plan after service.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are you going to navigate? How do you want to feel? What have you dreamed out loud of what your life looks like after the service?
And knowing,
And I'm done.
I was just going to say, with, someone who, and I'm a big goal setter, but, one thing that I think why people should reach out to you is having accountability and having
Oh,
someone by your side. You're going to achieve your goal a lot quicker and probably have more of a higher success rate because they're going to be on you. They're going to be cheering you on. And if you don't have that accountability, it is so easy to be like, you know what, I'm going to do it later. Or again, kind of falling into that trap of when I have time or when it's
right.
perfect. And I think if anyone is genuinely serious about starting an online business, reach out to her because having a coach I will tell you, is a game changer.
You are absolutely right. There are some things, like when I say things to some people, they be like, "What? You know that?" I'm like, "And you don't?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm like, my wife says, like, "You throw up on people." Because I just want to give them like a lot, right? She was like, "No, you're giving them, you give like you like they're all over the place." And or you're all over the place. And it's just like, again, it's like that, those steps. So like, all right, this is what you got to do. Okay, let me see it. Let's go over it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, next step. Let's go over it. It's not a race. Like it's not a, it's like, I have a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my coach told me, you got to put your uniform back on. And I'm going to tell you, I couldn't wait to sleep in when I retired. I couldn't wait to not have to go to the gym, required to go to the gym, right? I couldn't wait to not have to do another physical readiness test. But those are the success habits that need to translate into your civilian life. Because one, I'm going to tell y'all, I am 50 pounds overweight.
I could help you with that,
And
girl.
I got Peloton pallets in my garage. I have no excuse. I have all the tools in order to be successful in every area of my life, from the physical fitness. I know what to do. Sometimes you get that stinking thinking in your head, and you need, as Brittany said, that accountability. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yes, there's a part that is an accountability. It's like muster, right? Like, and that is in a form of a membership. I didn't supply that today because I only wanted to do, but hey, reach out to me. There's if you want to just have the accountability piece and that's all you want to, you would like. And it's a membership, and it's just, you're only gonna, 15 minutes. It's like muster.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody mustered in the military. Mostly everybody. Somebody was accountable. Even if you were an officer, you still checked in to find out what your plan of the day is. So
Mm-hmm.
what if you had someone that at 8 o'clock in the morning you did a check-in with, and I only want to know what is the one thing that is going to move you towards your goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get text messages and email. You're going to get a text message and an email. And then every day to encourage and motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, how are you going to do that if you have like 50 people? That's what automation
That's like perfect
is
timing.
for. That's what automation is for, right? And I didn't do that, you all. That's Apple products over here. But it's like, if you knew, like, we all mustered. We all, if you were enlisted, you all had to stand tall in the morning and had the plan of the day read to you, or it's like, all right, well, we got this going on, and we have this census over here on this ward is low, but we need help over on this one because it's increased. So because you were all trained, we were all trained, then you may go over here and work on that ward. That was what it was for me when I first became a hospital corpsman in Bethesda, is that we had muster and we worked in different locations based on the census of the patients. And so that's just, I know accountability is very important. It works. It works.
I completely agree. So,
Yeah.
if people wanted to reach out to you, how can people get into contact?
So you can contact me at success. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn there's a link in order to book an Ignite session. I've given that to you, Brittany, to put it out to the masses, and that's free. Now I'm gonna tell you all, like, my sessions are, the value of that session is $350, because that's what I charge annually and have been paid for on hourly. So just to give you a perspective on that, and hopefully, and I know that I'm going to be able to give you value. Because again, your success is my mission. So, but Also www.successafterdischarge.com is the website and as well. So
And I will put all of that into the show notes. She does have, like she mentioned, that free Ignite one-on-one coaching session. It is valued at $350, so strongly take advantage of it. So I'll put all of that into the show notes so people
yeah.
can reach out. Do you have any last minute comments?
The last minute comment, as I was just thinking, is like, look, I have been gifted with a lot of gifts and a lot of resources and a vast network. I know that entrepreneurship may not be in everybody's wheelhouse. So do not let that deter you from booking a call with me. We do not know what can happen with the interaction. You may say, hey, I booked a call because you said book it anyway. And we will get blessed
Mm-hmm.
because I always ask my veterans, are you okay with your VA compensation? And if you're not, guess what? I got some resources for you.
So book it.
So I am so thankful, Brittany, for this platform, for the mission. And I have to say, I just joined the American Legion. And as I was filling out the form to join, on the back of it, it clicked. It says, does your wife want to serve, want to be a part of this? So that in itself tells that there's challenges still with inclusivity, because it should say spouse and not wife, because that says that women did not serve. And we as women veterans, we women serve too. So I thank you for this platform. And we're not done with the work that we need to do when it comes to that space. So
Well, thank you for saying that. I just got goosebumps and I'm like getting emotional because you're so right. Like this is
I
my mission.
I challenge you to go to your American Legion, look at the back, look at it, look at the membership card, and see what it says.
Mm-hmm.
And and see what it says. If it says, oh, that was my membership card right here that they did yesterday,
Mm.
but attached to it is perforated, right? And attached to it was like, okay, what do you want to serve? Like what, And I was like, ooh, I'm not gonna do that today. There's a time and a place to have a DEI conversation. And that is
That's
probably something that has to be done nationally.
yeah.
So yeah. But again, it needs to be changed.
And I agree. And I appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise, talk about your coaching program. And you're right. Together we can, change that perception that men only serve because guess what? Women serve too.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to her. Again, book that call, regardless if you want to start an online business or not. It just even staying in contact with her, she's obviously clearly an amazing individual. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. But thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.